In episode number 363 of the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, we cover the final Joker trailer.
And this month's meltdown is Spider-Man leaving the MCU. We'll have our thoughts on what will now be the more true and improved Spider-Man.
And our comic book highlight this week is Batman Superman #1.
All of this and so much more on today's show.
Hello and welcome to the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week, ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I am your Emperor Palpa Kelli.
And I am Swimmer Daniel, wearing a Speedo like some kind of degenerate.
Yeah, you have a regular Speedo and then a Speedo on your head, too. Those little glasses. I hated the swimmers, right? Because I just wanted to surf along, and they were just like, na 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 na. That wasn't their music,
Come here,
right?
10-year-old.
Look at my swimsuit. Mm. And they always had that weird pose, like they were diving, but doing a shitty job about it.
Yeah. You've encountered swimmer Jay Gunn. It's like, oh, shit. Don't lose to him. Game over.
For those of you joining us for the very first time, the way we format the show is first we start out with some news. We have our Patreon shoutouts, our comic book highlight, and we end with the Brocat block, which is what happened with Daniel and I this week.
Well, let's kick off your 2019 Podcast Awards nominated show today with some Funko Pop announcements, including an all-new wave of Kingdom of Hearts Pops that are going to release later this year.
I don't know what that is you're talking about, but we do have Kingdom Hearts Pops coming out.
So these Pops include Sora wielding the ultimate weapon,
cool,
which I believe might be at the very end of Kingdom of Hearts 2.5, Kyrie holding a Starfruit,
cool,
Aqua from Kingdom of Hearts 2.9, and Axel sporting his Organization 13 outfit.
Cool. Why do you say it that way? Organization.
What is it? Organization?
Yeah.
Organization?
Organization.
What'd I say?
Organization.
Yeah, both are same shit.
You put the emphasis on a different syllable.
Now, the reason we're covering this is, of course, as many of you know, I work at a comic book store. Well, one of these has been released as an exclusive to comic book shops. But first, let's go through the first two and where you can get them.
So 3 exclusive total. We have Dark Aqua through Box Lunch.
I think it's an online retailer.
I feel like it's a subscription service. I feel like I've seen it before.
Kind of like Loot Crate?
Yeah, kind of. I think so. Is Loot Crate still around? Anyway, I digress. Continuing forth. We have Axel holding a fire Keyblade through Hot Topic, because Hot Topic gets the coolest things.
They did get the cool one.
Yeah. And finally, we have Keyblade Kyrie through your local comic shop.
Now, to be fair, Keyblade Kyrie is cooler than Starfruit Kyrie, I would say.
Yeah, probably.
And I am glad that at least one of these did end up being a comic shop exclusive. Did really surprise me because normally GameStop gets a lot of the video game exclusives or the other GameStop subsidiary. What's the one that's in the Florida Mall? The video game shop?
Oh, I don't even remember.
It's Think Geek is what it was. So usually it's either a Think Geek exclusive or a GameStop exclusive.
Think Geek closed.
So I heard that they're still open in that mall.
Oh, really? Just that one store?
But, well, I'm sure there's a few more, but I thought they had closed, but they are still in that mall.
Right, because I thought they went out of business.
I figured that they would have gotten that exclusive Funko Pop, and instead we are, so I think that's kind of neat. I don't know if it's going to lead to a whole lot of regular residuary sales. A lot of these gamers will just go in, buy their one Kyrie Kingdom of Hearts Pop, and move on, and that's fine. I know I didn't order too deep on it.
When they come to buy it, you should be like, no, it's exclusive for me. Not sell them.
Are you at all interested in exclusive Kyrie?
I would have to see it. I don't know. Probably not. What am I going to do with a bunch of pops? I only need my Vegeta pops.
Another one that I didn't have on the show notes that I think is going to do way better than this by the simple nature of the fact that it's Spider-Man is there's going to be a casual outfit, Miles Morales.
Oh, man, that's awesome.
But it's straight out of Spider-Verse. So it's the one in which he has the hoodie on before he jumps off the building and then it reveals the costume. And it has him in a leaping pose. It looks really neat. As my coworker Sean pointed out, they did omit the Nike logo on the shoe.
Of course, you would have to.
That's one thing. But otherwise, that is also going to be a comic shop exclusive. And that's one that I went like 7 to 8 times the amount that I ordered of Kyrie. And I even showed it to Sean. I showed it to a couple of customers. They're like, yeah, I'll take one. Yeah, I'll take one. I'll take one. So I'm like, all right, well, this is going to be way bigger than they think.
That's going to be huge. That's so cool. People loved that movie. And I think with the news that we're talking about later, right, it's getting even more publicity and brought back into people's minds even more than it already was. I'm looking up these pops right now. Axel's definitely the better one. Better than Kyrie. Sorry, comic
What's the
book
difference?
shops.
Why do you think it's better?
He just looks cooler. Kyrie's just like, here I am in my pink dress with my flowery Keyblade. And Axel's like, Organization 13 clothes.
You should look up the Spider-Man, and if you guys are at all into Spider-Verse or Miles, definitely check with your local comic book shop because, again, it is a previews exclusive. The other thing that really gives me confidence as to why it's going to be doing so well is with Netflix now, a lot of people are discovering Spider-Verse for the first time.
Yeah.
You play it in the store, and a lot of parents and a lot of kids will say, oh, we just saw that. We just saw it. A lot of people are watching it for the first time on there. So that's going to lead into a more successful sequel when that comes out, including the spin-offs and, of course, the merch that is releasing still.
It's not that one, is it?
No, if you type in casual Miles Morales, then it will show up.
I did.
It's okay. Look it up later.
Fine. No, I'm really
recording
excited.
The show now.
I need this.
There was a ton of Disney Plus news, most of which we didn't care about. We're not going to talk about, but there's a little bit that we are going to actually try to at least follow as much as we can. I know you said you wanted to get the Disney Plus service. If you do, maybe I'll check out this next story because it is something that I'm legitimately excited for.
As we got from the D23 conference, Ewan McGregor will be reprising his role in Star Wars as Obi-Wan Kenobi through a Disney Plus TV series.
He came out on stage and it was something that was long rumored. Initially, it was supposed to be a solo film alongside the standalone Yoda and Boba Fett films, but Kenobi is now set to launch as a TV show exclusive to Disney Plus.
Do you think this is a smart move?
With how people treated Solo and how people were acting after The Last Jedi released, yes, this was the right move. And I think we would have had Kenobi a lot sooner had Solo actually done extremely well and had people reacted more positively to The Last Jedi. But I got to give Star Wars fans credit because with something like Solo, that was a backlash reaction to how they felt about The Last Jedi. They voted with their dollar and made Disney rethink their entire Star Wars plan. If there's anything that Star Wars fans is basically relentless. A lot of them, with the original prequel trilogy, they still came out in droves for every single one of those movies. I think it's a little more dangerous now because while the prequels, you knew that eventually we were going to get a Darth Vader. So people wanted to see that transition and that move, and they wanted to see that story. But now with this, it's all about the future. It's about new characters. It's about characters that may or may not be connected to some of the older characters that people grew up with and still love to this day. So you're taking a greater chance. And while The Force Awakens did pretty well, The Last Jedi really left a sour taste in a lot of fans' mouth. Even my manager, who's a huge Star Wars fan, he is not at all excited about this next installment. I haven't asked him about this Disney Plus stuff, but he's not the only fan out there that's been like, no, I really don't care. I have my original stuff, but to a lot of them, it really killed that passion.
Do you think we'll get a cameo from Liam Neeson in Kenobi?
That'd be awesome. I would love that.
I would love it. He would show up and be like, my daughter's been taken, and then we have to go save his daughter.
He'd have to be a Force ghost.
He would have to be.
I
don't know why Force ghosts would age, but
Yeah, I'm not sure, but filming right now is set to begin in 2020 for Kenobi. Obi-Wan is a character that is very popular to the fan base, and especially because of Clone Wars. Even kids and teens that grew up on that show are like, no, I know Obi-Wan. He trained Anakin, who would later become Darth Vader, and while it was supposed to happen for the Force to kind of get into balance, it was still like, well, Liam Neeson maybe should have trained them instead.
Or maybe they shouldn't have picked Anakin. I don't know.
That was the main thing. No one wanted Liam Neeson to pick Anakin as an apprentice or someone to train because he was too old and it was too much of a wild thing. But Liam Neeson said his midichlorian count is ridiculous. He's going to be a ridiculously strong Jedi. And he was something.
He was pretty strong.
So I'm curious to see if this is going to be like a send-off to the Obi-Wan character or if they're going to go by seasons and kind of tell that story after episode 3.
They do have a lot of space to move and to create things, right? Because you have such a big expanse between when we see him at the end of that and then when he's this old man now training Luke and training him right, I guess.
Trying again.
Just trying again.
The other big drop, as we mentioned earlier, The Rise of Skywalker, that full trailer did get released.
Yes, it's him.
It was a Star Wars trailer.
Didn't get you?
No, not really, but I haven't seen the other two, so really...
Oh, that's right, you hadn't.
No, so it's really not for me, and if I watched them, I'd probably be like, all right, they were okay, but I was never... I was more into Star Trek than I was into Star Wars, and again, because my parents were, right? But it just never really caught me.
Yeah, I gotta say, as someone who felt the same with Last Jedi as I did with The Force Awakens, I thought they were both Star Wars movies. I'm like, yeah, they were fine. They weren't, nothing that I need to buy or even see again. But I'm like, yeah, I'll see the next one. So that's what I feel with this new mini trailer that they released. And one of the two biggest things that people kept focusing on is that there's the red eyes on C-3PO. So people immediately started going
He's
into...
evil.
Yeah, that's
He's
what people were saying.
Possessed.
And, Vader had some kind of off switch, something rather, and there's an inner programming that makes him bad and all kinds of silliness. But then the other big one is that Rey is actually wielding a double lightsaber, much like Darth Maul, except this one folds in on itself. I don't know if the Maul one did the same. I don't think it does because you didn't see it in episode 1. He just kind of had it with him and then he turns it on. And he could either have it one single side or the other. But for her to have that dark side look, fans freaked out. And it's not going to be that as the villain. She's not going to be the villain or anything. And I think I lean with a lot of fans in which they're saying that it's probably just the vision, very much like Luke got in episode 5.
Right.
But it is what it is. It got people talking about the trailer. It also got fans like my manager going, I don't care. I'm done. So I don't know.
Tapped out.
I don't think there's enough in there for fans. And I know that this is sort of the ending to this particular journey and this trilogy. Right. And the way that Disney has spoken about these movies, they've kind of gone, well, we're going to finish this last one and then we really have to hit the brakes on these movies and really refocus on the whole line and the whole branding. So I have no idea what's going to happen with episode 10, 11, and 12. I mean, they're coming for sure. There's no way they don't bring those.
Right.
Because Star Wars is forever, I think, a moneymaker. But I think it will be a while before we see that actually release.
Something they announced for Disney Plus that I think is way better than any of the Star Wars stuff. Lizzie McGuire is coming back.
Really?
Yes. Played by Hilary Duff. It's a 30-year-old Lizzie McGuire. They're pulling us in. This isn't for kids. This is for me. My Facebook exploded. There was nothing about Star Wars on my Facebook, but 10 people posted about Lizzie McGuire. And I was like, I'm here for this, and I'm ready, guys.
Is she the one that plays the secret pop star, and then she has the double life?
No, that's Hannah Montana.
What's the difference?
And you knew that.
No, I know. I really didn't. Those are girl shows. I didn't watch them.
Oh,
they were shows for girls.
So Lizzie
#
McGuire,
2019.
Lizzie McGuire, it took place in middle school, and then she was the one who had her cartoon self who would show up. and just be like, oh, this is fucking stupid. I don't know. She didn't really say that. And then she had a crush on this one guy forever. And then she had a movie where she went to Italy and then realized she was really in love with her best friend the whole time. And then she got to play a pop star because she looked exactly like Italy's big pop star.
So it is like fucking Hannah Montana.
No, it's not like Hannah.
Shit.
It's not the same thing. It's not.
Well, the reason I didn't watch this is because it doesn't sound like anything like what I grew up on, like the Jeffersons or the Wonder Years, Full House.
Nope, definitely not any of that. But it was great, and I loved it. I was there for Hannah Montana. Or not,
yes, Hannah Montana. They're interchangeable. It's fine.
For Lizzie McGuire, and it's coming back.
So how do they continue the plot from there? At the end, I guess they fell in love, and that was it, and now they're 30 years later, they have kids? Or what was the trailer? What was the announcement?
No, they just said she's coming back. And then she showed up and she says, I loved playing this character and I'm so excited to continue it. But I'm talking like 15 years she's been gone. I don't know. It's a long time. So yeah, she was in middle school last time we saw her. And now she's going to be 30 and going through life. And they're bringing a lot of these characters back, right? So you've got, what's her name? That's So Raven, who's back again. There were rumblings about Drake and Josh coming back. I don't know. There were a lot of stuff. They're bringing it back for us so we make our kids watch it. And then they get more views.
Was there anything else out of Disney Plus that kind of caught your attention?
There were some, but then I just kept getting distracted by Lizzie McGuire. And I just want to know everything. Is she still with him? Oh, the only thing they revealed is that her fiance in the show is a chef. And so now we're all speculating, is it Ethan, who she had a crush on forever? But I'm sitting here saying, it's been a million years, right? She was in middle school. I really hope she's still not with that dumb kid because he was stupid.
Yeah, I mean, that's it that I got out of Disney Plus with just the Star Wars news. And obviously my Twitter and Facebook was a little bit flooded with a couple of the MCU stuff, but nothing that I clicked on or looked into at all. So I have nothing to report because I have zero interest and I don't plan on watching any of those things. So nothing positive, nothing negative to say about that.
Will you watch Lizzie McGuire with me?
I've got to watch the first one first.
Yes. Oh, wait, no. Let's not go back there because then I probably won't watch the sequel.
Here's where we head into some DC Extended Universe news, though. This is the stuff that got my attention and definitely got a lot of our, fellow DC belugas talking.
According to The Hollywood Reporter, John Wick director Chad Stahelski has been brought on to help Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn.
So initial filming ran from January to April of this year, and Stahelski is set to, quote, design new action scenes, end quote, for Birds of Prey. A lot of people immediately took this as a negative, because we have seen what Warner Brothers does in the past when they do some fucking reshoots.
Yeah, why? Why are they doing this?
Hoping
Why, Lisa? Why?
I get why we're all nervous, and I'm hoping that it truly is just action scenes. I'm hoping it's not another Justice League situation in which they say, we're just helping Zack finish the reshoots. No, I really hope that isn't the case, but we're gonna, I guess, find out. I don't know what possible changes or what possible thing could have happened between now and Justice League that might have cause for these, but it is a director that people love. They love the John Wick films, and he clearly knows how to shoot an action scene, so if anything, you can look at it that way as a positive.
Is it that they love John Wick for him, or do they love it for Keanu Reeves?
Both? I mean, you got to have both.
Or that dog. Because whenever I see anything about John Wick, it's always about the dog.
It was just a fucking dog. Fucking blows him away.
I would too if he killed my dog.
Well, there's deeper meaning to it. He only had a dog for a very small amount of time, but it was the last gift that his wife had given him, and he received it after she passed away. And it was the dog, and these assassins came into his house. They murdered the dog, and they shot him thinking he was dead. Didn't die. He's like, well, I've got nothing to fucking lose. I'm going back into the assassin's life, and I'm going to go back and kill these motherfuckers. And that was the whole thing of, it was just a fucking dog. They didn't understand what the dog meant, aside from, I guess, him being his pet. He was the last bit of his wife that he had, or his girlfriend.
But it was also his pet. Listen, I don't care if, I had a dog for a day. You kill my dog, that's it. I'll go back into the assassin life, too.
Birds of Prey, and I don't know if we're going to get a trailer anytime soon. We're hoping that before the end of the year, at least a full trailer, is set to release next year on February 7th.
Sticking with the DC Cinematic Universe, Justice League movie cinematographer Fabian Wagner told comicbook.com that he cried while watching the theatrical cut of Justice League.
I didn't get that bad, but I did have that moment of, oh no. Watching it's like, oh shit. But imagine being someone, the cinematographer of this fucking thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the quote here that he had with comicbook.com read, quote, "It's really hard to say because I was watching it, and I think I was crying all the way through. So it's hard for me to say exactly how much was changed, but a lot was changed. It looked very different, and it's sad for me because I loved working with Zach. I had the best time of my life. You can just see, if you watch the first trailers, you can see how the film should have looked and how the film did look when we were shooting it," end quote. So you've got your work that you put in fucking months of, and suddenly it's bastardized on the big screen and you're fucking screening it and you're seeing it and it's not what you worked on. It's gotta be the most frustrating fucking thing that could happen to you.
I'm sure, and that's so, I mean, one, horrible that he has to see that, right? But two, that he waited this long. I don't know. I'm assuming that he just saw it recently.
He's talking about it now, but it's because of the Snyder Cut movement that a lot of these people are getting interviews. A lot of people speculate that it's because of certain NDA agreements that are ending that you're having these actors now coming out like we've had in the past year of, yeah, I did play Darkseid and maybe this happened and that happened. Like there's a lot of that now happening where you used to have to need to be silent about the shit that you went on at Warner Brothers.
Right.
But maybe that's going away now. Hey, he said something. Nothing happened to them. Maybe I can say something.
Until that one person says something and then they all have to be quiet again.
Since the film's theatrical release, demand for Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League has grown. Because of that, we've gotten the news. For example, the film Exiles just broke. The Sod being confirmed as one of the characters in Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League, which we would have seen next to Darkseid and some of the other members of Apocalypse, maybe some of the new gods in that final sort of scene of Justice League, or at least near the end. And then, of course, we haven't gotten yet confirmation about the Green Lanterns for sure, anything about anyone playing motion capture, but we do know about Tomar Ray and Kilowog at least. It seems to be the consensus on that. But as the months go on, we're just discovering more and more details about this, what I think should be at this point an inevitable release of Snyder's vision.
The best you can do is keep hoping, keep pushing, right? Keep spreading the news, keep throwing it out there to Warner Brothers that this is something that you want. And then when it actually makes it here, vote with your dollar. Like, make sure you buy it. Don't be... What do we use now? Napster? I don't know. Downloading it? Yeah, whatever. But make sure you're voting with your dollar when this comes out, because they need to see this is what we wanted, thank you, and this is obviously a better product.
What gives me hope about the Snyder Cut is that now websites like Newsarama, like Bleeding Cool, they used to be very iffy and vague about whether or not the Snyder Cut was out or whether it existed or anything like that. You even see it with people you talk to every day, where the whole narrative changed from, I don't think it exists, what came out in theaters was it, to, well, I mean, maybe it's out there, but it's not complete, to, it might be complete, but they're never going to release it. That's kind of where we're at. Right. Or even, well, maybe they'll release it, but it'll still suck. Like, it just keeps pushing. The narrative keeps going further and further against the wall of like, yeah, you're pretty much admitting that this shit is out. But the articles themselves, too, have been saying that more and more like, well, they should just release it. So people are speculating that maybe there's some rumblings behind the scenes that are prepping a lot of these sites to not be so anti-Zack Snyder or the Snyder Cut, where they can now say, yeah, we've been saying for months that they should release it. Okay. And that's what the speculation is now, because that's the way the fucking world works.
We'll see. We hope. Maybe that'll be like your Christmas present. Here you go. Here's a Snyder Cut.
That'd be a nice holiday gift. Very nice indeed. But something else that is coming, and I don't know if the Blu-ray will release before the holidays, but we are a month away and we are going to have a review for it. But earlier this week, the final trailer to the Joker film launched.
You don't listen, do you? You just ask the same questions every week. How's your job? Are you having any negative thoughts? All I have are negative thoughts.
I don't think you and I needed to be any more excited to go see this movie, but I waited to watch it with you. I did. It showed up on my Facebook a while ago, and I saw nothing but positivity about it. And it was interesting the way that they were spinning it, because they're like, if you don't like scary movies, don't watch it.
Really?
And I watched, at least that's what one article said. And I watched the trailer and I'm like, no, it's intense. And you can tell it's going to be intense, but I wouldn't call it scary.
Yeah, because if it's not a comic book movie, when it's a comic book movie without superheroes, doing nipple jokes and fucking nonsense bullshit every goddamn minute, then it's weird and it's scary and it's intense and I don't know what's happening, because you haven't had shit like that in the comic book movies that you have watched, because for a lot of the sheep, it's only the MCU that they're fucking familiar with. And someone now is putting something forward that we haven't had something like this in a while. Mm-hmm. I think the last time might be Watchmen, something this intense and real and even grounded, as crazy as Watchmen is, but this is the most grounded comic book movie, I think, in a very long time. The only one that I can think of is maybe History of Violence. That might be the one, but this is that different and weird and odd for many fans, I think, for a lot of people that are only used to these kinds of comic book movies. To people like us, we've seen we just watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and it's like you got to just expand what you see. To us, it's like it looks like a character study, and that's how they have been promoting it.
Definitely true, and you get to see more of that in this trailer. More so, I still think the first trailer was my favorite, because I just love that music that they played over it. I thought it was so perfect. But in this one, you really get to see more of him in the moments when he's becoming the Joker and turning into the Joker, and not so much of the things that led up to that. So it's pretty interesting how they set up the trailers, because the first one was very much, here's this guy in this shitty situation, and now it's, oh look, he's crazy. Like he's getting to that point. And when you see Joaquin do the laugh, like it's chilling, right? And it's the way he can go from that to just like deadpan immediately is amazing. So I know you already spoiled it for yourself. You know everything that's gonna happen. Yeah,
but in a lot of that, when I saw this trailer, I'm like, all right, well, the script is definitely confirmed. Like it wasn't a whacked out script. It's like, all right, well, these are the plot points from the movie. There's something still a little bit they haven't revealed yet, and I think they shouldn't. But there is a curveball in the movie that I know is going to happen now because of this trailer. So that's kind of neat. But to anyone else that is viewing it, I know I saw one comment saying, I'm not excited for it because it's a realistic take on Joker that is not based at all out of Killing Joke or anything. So it's really just a guy that went nuts and they slapped the Joker name on it. And you can kind of say that about anything. And they're saying they're minimizing the fact that there's no Batman involved in this particular Joker's life. And for all intents and purposes, yeah, this is a realistic take on someone who has mental issues, which I think a lot of people can relate to, especially today with suicide rates being what they are. That this is a character that a lot of people are going to make some connections with and are going to ignore the fact that you don't have a Batman flying around, gliding and fighting with the guy in a Harley Quinn or any of that. It's just a man who you could strip the Joker name off of it and it would still be an intense character study regardless of who it is.
Putting the Joker name on it, though, is so smart because in one sense, right, you're bringing more people in to see this story about a crazy man, but you're also humanizing the Joker even more. So I think after seeing this movie, even though, it's very loosely based on other things, now when I go in to read the comic books, I'm still going to have that underlying feeling of, that sympathy that I'm sure we're going to feel for the Joker after watching this. I don't feel like, based on what we've seen in the trailers, I could get to the end and be like, that fucker was crazy. And, not care about him, right? You're still going to be like, he was driven to this point. And so I think that will just make him more impactful in everything that I see him in moving forward.
Yeah, and there's a nice nod in the story that does kind of intertwine it into a DC universe, which is kind of neat. So there is still, I think, a little bit of that there for any Batman fan that likes, is at all fascinated by the characters in Gotham. I think there's enough there for them, but it is really just about these actors and the story and this camera work showcasing what they can do with a different take on these characters, and not so vastly different that it's unrecognizable. But I think you still look at it, and I think even the average goer goes, yeah, okay, that's the Joker.
The next one should just be called Freeze.
People have been saying now, and it's like just like I forgot, one of the listeners has asked which DC Black Label movie would you want next, and people want Riddler, they want Freeze, they want what was the other one I saw, like Jason Todd as one.
So you could just whine the whole time?
Pretty much.
That's just, nobody loves me.
What do you feel about the R rating behind the trailer, behind the movie?
You gotta have it. 100%. I don't think that in any medium, any instance, you could do a true Joker film without making it R-rated, because this guy is insane and he's bloody and he kills people all the time. Like, that's what he does. So realistically, unless you're going to water it down a lot, no, I think R is perfect.
There are a couple things I guess they could have done to probably bring this down to PG-13, but there are some instances in the script that you're like, okay, well, that could work out much more intensely if it is a rated R movie. You can show a lot more blood and not gore, but definitely a lot more violence.
Well, too, 13-year-olds, that's not really the audience that you're going for with this. They're not gonna pick up on all the subtlety and all the different things that they got to think about within this. They're gonna leave feeling these feelings, right? And because it's a very intense movie, and they'll probably feel the anxiety and the discomfort from that, but they're not really going to understand everything that's behind it. So keep your PG-13 rating.
We have said in the past, Kevin from the Cup to Cup podcast show said that he had taken our advice before of like, if you're sold on the movie, this trailer is not necessary, you're good, they're probably going to show way more, and of course they did. He said he couldn't help it though, but he did watch it without the volume, so he just watched the imagery, and I was telling him that the cinematography alone, you can take a lot of these shots and frame them. It's so beautiful to look at.
Is that what you're going to do in our house?
I'm not going to do that, but all the GIFs I was seeing on Twitter, it's like, damn it, you guys wasted no fucking time on finding the perfect ones. The one of Arthur walking down the hallway and laughing to himself. And
chills.
The tweet said, and people said Avengers Endgame was going to be the best film of the year. And then it has him laughing.
It's perfect.
See, the way I read it, though, I'm like, well, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood already, I'm sure, topped that. I haven't seen Endgame, but that movie's my favorite one this year. It's going to be hard to top that. Good luck, Joker, because holy shit. And it might. It looks fucking amazing. It looks great.
I feel like the Joker is gonna be better than Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. My problem with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I'm sorry that we're getting into this now, is I had to go and research to understand more things about it.
I gotcha.
So once I knew more things about it, I was like, wow, this is even better, right? But as a casual viewer, if I were just watching that, then I'd be like, oh, well, so much of it didn't make sense. And I don't know. Again, I haven't seen the Joker, but I already feel like it's already going to make more sense to me.
Yeah, you don't need to know like 70s history or 60s.
I don't need to research Charles Manson murders.
Not at
all. Okay.
But then at the end, they reveal his last name is Manson. Cut to black. No, nothing like that.
And then Brad Pitt and what's his name walk out? Leonardo.
Well, yeah, I'd like that. That'd be cool. The Joker is set to release on October 4th. By the time this episode releases, it will have had its screening. So you'll start seeing some initial thoughts from a lot of reviewers that were able to attend the festival. And from what I understand, tickets are already gone for that particular festival.
Its release week is going to be a busy week for us. We got a lot going on.
As soon as those tickets go on sale, I'm buying that shit.
I know.
We're going to be going on October 3rd because I believe October 4th is that Friday, and then October 3rd would be that Thursday night.
Yeah, they always release it at Thursday at like 4 p.m. or something early now.
That's awesome because I know when I worked at the theater, it used to be the midnight releases, then they moved them up, and they found that people they can't stay up till midnight.
No.
Eventually, movie studios were like, well, if this means more money for us, if we can get the parents in there, great.
Might as well.
Let's do it.
I used to go to those midnight releases for Pirates of the Caribbean. I was always there, and those theaters were packed. And then I was like, why are they doing a 6 p.m. showing? That's stupid. And then now I'm old, and I'm like, oh, why is it so late at 6 p.m.?
Well, we've got more DC news, but this time it's from DC Universe, the exclusive streaming service in which Titans is hosted on. And not only did we get a new poster for season 2, but we got the official trailer for it.
He's gonna kill how many more now?
Now's the time. Be Batman.
And in the trailer, we got to see Deathstroke.
Pretty surprising because from what I understand, the season 1 final episode of Titans ended with a Trigon cliffhanger.
It did.
And then this one is all about Deathstroke. So some people are suspecting that there was a change in story direction from the supernatural and a focus on Raven to, well, let's give them more of the classic Teen Titans that they know.
That's interesting because I thought the first season was pretty good. I really enjoyed the first season and the direction that they were going with it. But I was kind of confused because so are they just going to wrap up Trigon stuff in the first episode?
No idea.
And they'll just be like, boop, boop, here we are. Or something going to happen and like maybe make it a different world? I don't know. They're going to have to fix it real quick.
Or if Deathstrokes is just the first story arc of the season and then they'll really end it with Trigon.
But how many episodes do they really have?
I'm not sure.
Not too many. There's a lot of questions. But we did get to see a lot of characters, new designs, I guess, for Raven. Now she's got the little jewel in the middle of her head because her powers are fully awakened or whatever because of the Trigon business. I don't know. Katana? Was Katana in there?
I didn't see Katana.
Wasn't she the eye patch? Who was the eye patch girl?
Slade's daughter.
Oh, Slade's daughter, the eye patch girl. Okay. I'm up to speed now. Thank you. I didn't even know.
Rose Wilson, I think.
I didn't even know he had a daughter. Oh, I did know he had a daughter.
He has a kid too, Jericho.
What? Who?
Although I think in the comics he had to kill Jericho.
That's so sad. Why?
Well, you might see it in this season.
Oh my god, I'm so excited now.
What'd you think of Deathstroke's look in season 2?
He looked a little more cartoony than I think I thought he would be. His suit was very bright.
Really? You think so?
Yeah, I thought so.
I didn't think the colors were bright at all, but it did look more like New 52 Deathstroke, especially with the weaponry and the costume than your classic chainmail Deathstroke.
Maybe you took a closer look than I did. I just saw like it was half orange and kind of purplish on the other side, and I was like, kind of bright Deathstroke. How are you supposed to assassinate people when they can see you?
I am glad that they kept the white hair on him, but they kind of mixed it. It was like a peppered almost type of look.
Who was that other old guy? Was that Batman?
Yeah, so that's Bruce Wayne, right, as Batman.
Why is he so old?
This is supposed to, because it's not Batman's show, so they have to find a way to kind of get him out of the,
out of the spotlight.
And they did hint at Dick Grayson becoming the new Batman, which of course we saw in Battle for the Cowl in the comic books. But I think it is going to finally end in that Nightwing persona by the end of it.
I could definitely see him maybe taking the cowl for an episode or two and then just be like, this still isn't me. What's a medium in between, right? This, because obviously the dark suit is helpful, and Robin.
And then we'll get Disco Nightwing. You better do it. There's got to be at least one reference to it.
He needs like a mullet. 100%.
Titans Season 2 premieres on September 6th on DC Universe.
So moving on to the story that broke the internet this week. I don't know. It broke my internet. I was getting tagged and all these things. Like, Kelli, look at this shit.
A lot of man babies cried.
A lot of man babies. I was in fights on the internet. Like I was going at people.
Me too.
I was like, listen here. So according to Deadline, Sony and Disney have not come to a contract renewal agreement. And so the mouse no longer has hold of Spider-Man.
That's right. The report states that Marvel Studios reportedly requested a 50-50 split of profits of future Spider-Man films, which Sony refused, offering initially a 5% share of first dollar gross, which was a continuation of the previous terms. So Disney would have kept the merchandising rights, and they would have gotten 5% of the box office earnings, which was fair when they did this deal because Sony is it called footed the bill, or they foot the bill?
Yeah, they foot the bill.
For the full production cost of the movies.
Oh.
So Disney came forward and said, we want 50% of the box office profits. And Sony went, are you guys going to pay for half the fucking production? Obviously, they didn't want to.
No.
They wanted 50% of that. So instead, Sony offered a 70-30 split. So they countered or came back with that instead and kind of meet in the middle, to which Disney refused. And there it is. Of course, the articles ran rampant.
Yes.
And people ran with the fucking story of how dare Sony not foot the bill for production costs and give up more of box office when they just had goddamn fucking Venom and Spider-Verse. Venom, which made them more, and you can look up that report on Forbes, made more money for Sony than they made for either Homecoming film because of they had to split a portion of that for Disney and the merchandising rights, whereas Venom made them a higher profit and it made them less money than Homecoming, I believe, and overall, but because they didn't split it, they got way more out of it. Why split Spider-Man sales or any of that, or give up more of your fucking pie when you're making movies yourself that are making more fucking money than splitting with the fucking mouse? It's fucking ridiculous. It makes no sense. Why is Sony the bad guy? They came back with a 70-30, to which I should have gone, fuck that shit. No, you shouldn't have came back with no fucking 70-30.
Right.
They can fucking renew the goddamn contract, and that's fucking it. They don't want to do that? All right, well then fuck off. We can clearly make movies that are going to make us money. And the one thing that I constantly fucking see and I hear all the time is people saying, Sony can't make a good Spider-Man movie, so why are they now thinking that they can? And people don't look back at the fucking history of Spider-Man. The bottom line being, they are profitable. That should be it. That kills any fucking argument. But the other one is, if you really wanted to push it, ASM 2 and Spider-Man 3, you could say are at worst, I don't know, mediocre maybe. You know, there's some good stuff with, yes, even Spider-Man fucking 3 when you come to realize that Sam Raimi wanted a lizard and not Venom in there. But there's some good things to each of those. They're not fucking atrocities. And even if you were to agree that two atrocities exist out of Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man 1, Into the Spider-Verse, they've made better movies overall with Spidey than they have made worse ones. So that argument goes right out the fucking door. And on top of that, once again, they were profitable.
The thing is, people just have these blinders on when it comes to Marvel Disney, right? We talk about it all fucking day long. But this is a perfect example of them saying, well, because they're not doing it, it can't be good. Because they're not doing it, it's not my Spidey. Because, you know, they did Spider-Man right. That was the first Spider-Man movie I ever liked, was the ones that they did. But the other thing that I saw, which just made me laugh, is they made Disney out to seem like such a victim in all these things. And they're like, well, they were only getting 5%. Of course they wanted more money. Can you imagine? Only 5%.
Merch rights, you fucking idiots.
Right. Well, and then now I didn't even know that they didn't foot the production cost. So like now it's even like, so they're just making 5%, right? And the merch cost. And the merch cost, right? Which is huge as well. It just blew my mind that this company, that they just made them out to seem like such a victim for being greedy assholes and wanting more money. And I get that they want more money. That's fine.
It's a business.
Right?
Sure.
It's a business. But that was such a stupid thing to come to the table with and say, give us 50-50. Such a stupid thing to come to the table with.
Especially when Sony holds the cards to all of this.
Yeah.
They own the fucking rights. And they're coming off of a very successful Spidey year. They said, yeah, why don't you pay attention to what we just fucking did?
Right.
And maybe just agree to the same fucking
Oscar.
terms. They won a goddamn Oscar last time they did a Spider-Man film, so fuck off with that shit.
It just, yeah, I was getting in fights all over the place. People like, Sony can't make a good Spider-Man film.
Really?
Look at these last two.
Really? Can they not?
Look at these last two.
Fucking idiots.
And then now there's that thing coming around like, oh, I want Deadpool to be sitting in his apartment. Have you seen that stupid meme?
No.
It's everywhere. So when they introduce Deadpool in the MCU, they want him to be sitting in his apartment, and then Tom Holland is there. And then what's his eye patch man is like, Parker, what are you doing here? And he's like, what are you talking about? And he's eating a cereal. And then Tobey Maguire walks past, also eating cereal. And then somebody else is doing laundry. The other guy, Andrew
Garfield?
Yes. And people are like, wah, 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 that should happen.
I don't get the joke. Is it just because they're all Fox properties? Or Sony and Fox?
Oh, and then Deadpool has to say they're in the Sony Witness Protection Program. So saying that we can't really use them, so they're here as their actor selves.
Yeah, I think that's a little too intense for the PG-13 Disney Deadpool that they want to do. So while those memes might be enjoyed by some,
it's also stupid. It makes no sense.
Well, it fits once
Just
again with
like-
the jokes in the goddamn
just
Marvel
like
Studios
Steve
universe.
Rogers becoming Mr. Rogers, which I'm still angry about. Anger.
Marvel Comedic Universe.
They don't.
We've got the head of the Marvel Comedic Universe, Kevin Feige, president, in fact. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly, Lord Feige expressed his thoughts on the end of this partnership.
He said, quote, "It was never meant to last forever. We knew there was a finite amount of time that we'd be able to do this, and we told the story we wanted to tell, and I'll always be thankful for that." End quote.
They told the story they wanted to tell.
They told that story, and it wasn't a good story, but they told it.
Wasn't a good story. You're right. Tony Stark Jr., Iron Man Jr.
Yeah.
If that's the Spidey they fucking think is good, then that's a shitty It's the least Spider-Man
Yes.
that we have seen on the big screen.
But it's the only Spider-Man that I ever liked.
But it was done by MCU, so automatically he gets
can't.
all the fucking passes in the world.
Of course.
Had Sony made the exact fucking movie, the exact goddamn movie, it would have been fucking panned.
And you know how much I dislike Tobey Maguire, right?
Yeah.
You know I don't
Oh,
really
yeah.
like him.
I know.
But I still like him more than Tom Holland as Spider-Man, so...
Well, Tom
Fair.
Holland is the worst Peter Parker that
Yeah,
we've seen on
he
the
was
big
pretty
screen,
bad.
that's for sure. Made me not want to see Homecoming 2,
Didn't
Far
see
From Home.
Yeah, something like that.
They're calling it Far From Feige now, which is great. I want to see that third one.
Isn't there also Spider-Man 3 homeless?
See, those are fucking memes right there. And I know a lot of people were very confused about where Tom Holland is going to fit now with the Venomverse. A lot of people are speculating that they're actually going to try to work him into Venom 2.
Yeah?
I still don't think we're going to see a Spider-Man focused plot in Venom 2. I think
don't
it's going to
think
be
we
about Venom and
should.
Carnage. As we said before, clearly Venom can stand on his own, as we
Right.
saw in last year's movie. Box office supported it and fans loved it. So great. But you have that be the focus, Venom and Carnage. And if you really wanted to, maybe post-credit scene is about Spider-Man wanting to put an end to this vigilante. Now, people are saying that they're going to let go of Tom Holland from the contract because he has the option for 2 films, but they don't have to do them.
Right.
So people are speculating that it'll instead take the route of like the PlayStation 4 Spider-Man, a much more seasoned and aged Spider-Man that would match Tom Hardy's Venom. And it would instead be that Spidey, which we haven't seen on the big screen yet. We haven't seen an old Spider-Man.
I think that would be pretty cool. I was going to go the route of what if, we get the kind of a reboot of Spider-Man, right? And it's a young Spider-Man, but then Venom shows up and actually helps him, which would be kind of cool. But I like your older Spider-Man better. That's what I want. Make it happen.
If they want to.
Yes.
I mean, they have the full rights. I mean, not necessarily full rights, but now they can straight up make a Spider-Man film without worrying about how it mixes with the others.
2 other funny memes that I saw. I don't know if you saw them. Somebody dressed as Spider-Man holding a gun, and it's like when it's your 4th go around and you got to take care of Uncle Ben yourself.
Well, I hope we do. I know a lot of people are like, I hope we don't get to see another fucking Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben is such an
He's so
important
great.
part of the goddamn story that you just fucking ignore him and make Tony Stark Uncle Ben. Fuck off with that shit. If I were a Spider-Man fan, like a real deep, heavy-ass Spider-Man fan, I would not love the direction that they took him in. And I would, in fact, be thrilled by the fact that it's going back to Sony, not back to, but they're actually going to be making Spider-Man films on the big screen in live action because they have a better understanding of who the fuck Peter Parker is. Disney does not. They think it's Tony Stark Jr.
And all their characters are the same. All of the Disney characters are the same.
They're all now members of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Just goddamn jokes. And this is why it's like, fuck this shit, man. Like, it's not for me. I'm not going to watch this. And I, for one, am beyond thrilled that we're going to get a better Spider-Man on the big screen yet again. And it's a good thing to celebrate. Again, if you're a Spider-Man fan, this is all great. And the MCU sheep that are boycotting Spider-Man were never true Spider-Man fans to begin with.
And they're not even really boycotting. They're going to be in the seats watching it. They're going to say, well, let me see how they butchered it.
Well, you got to remember, these are the same people that did not go out to see ASM 2 in hopes that it would now show up in the MCU. And they got their fucking wish, and they got an Iron Man Spidey.
I get that, but now it's a new world, right? So they stopped so that it would go to Disney, but now they have to watch it to prove that it's not as good as what Disney did. So they're still going to go watch it.
We'll see if that happens. I'm optimistic, obviously based on Sony's record and especially off of Into the Spider-Verse. So I'm all for it. I'll be there on day one whenever Spider-Man does show up. If it's in Venom 2, great, because I'm definitely going to go see Venom 2.
We're not the only ones really excited about this split, though. Shortly after the Sony-Disney breakup, Stan Lee's daughter, J.C. Lee, told TMZ that the Walt Disney Company treated her father worse than anyone.
Poor grieving J.C. Lee just lost her father and is going through all of this. I'm sure a barrage of interviews, especially after her father died. But the Walt Disney Company, the way they treated her and Stan after this, we have a quote here that she gave to TMZ, quote, "When my father died, no one from Marvel or Disney reached out to me. From day one, they have commoditized my father's work and never shown him or his legacy any respect or decency. In the end, no one could have treated my father worse than Marvel and Disney executives," end quote. And I think it's apparent when you see the way Stan is paraded around in these movies as a cash-grabbing cameo. And I understand that it did not start with the MCU. It started with Spider-Man. It started with, even before that, the TV shows. He would have his own shows that would highlight a lot of comic book artists. One of the best episodes is the one with Todd McFarlane and Liefeld. But the way that they then really commercialized and forced him onto these fucking movies, it seems like a lot of times, where he's not looking great. And they're still putting him in front of all of this. And I know there's a lot to be said about the convention appearances as well. I don't know how much of that ties into the movie contracts. I have no idea. But the way that they really put him and pushed him, and the fact that he did all of these appearances for these different movies, and after his death, no one reaches out from Disney or Marvel Studios to his family, to his fucking daughter. It's despicable. It's not... It reflects on how they really viewed Stan, who has been making them billions upon billions of dollars.
There are a lot of arguments online about this too, of people saying, so the tributes mean nothing, so all the things they put before their movies mean nothing, where they were saying how much he meant to them. It's, again, they're monetizing that, right? They're putting in front of their movies, oh, here, you all cared about Stan Lee. Yep, we did too. Here's this thing. Or people saying, well, he always said great things about them. Of course, you put enough zeros after a paycheck, and you're going to say great things about whatever company you work for, too.
It's called showboating.
Right.
It's called showboating. How about they reach out to the family first before they think about, well, what kind of thing could we put in front, just so that people are like, oh, good for them.
Good for them. They did care.
No, reach out to the family first, because without them, you don't have any of this shit. Any of it.
It's so unfortunate because really without him, right, they wouldn't be where they are now. They wouldn't have this successful franchise because he was behind it, of course, helping them along, helping create these characters. And for them to just be like, oh, we'll just put something in front of a movie. Like, it sucks. I'm glad she stepped forward and said something.
And I'm curious to know if they reached out to Steve Ditko's family or Jack Kirby's after their deaths. I know the universe was not quite what it is now as far as the big screen, but I'd kind of want to know. And I'm guessing no, based on how they treated Stan Lee's family.
Right, 100%.
It was not a good week for Disney, not a good week for the MCU sheep, but it was a great week for Spider-Man fans, and of course a great week for people like us who are very much looking forward to the next DC film being the Joker. But that does wrap up our news for this week. Let's head into our thank yous, which are our Patreon shoutouts for today's episode.
Today we have 7 shout outs. The first one goes out to Alexander, whose Twitter handle is at Swordfish Show. I got stuck on the word handle and it just spiraled downward from there. You can also find him at purpleswordfish.com.
So on his Twitter, he tweeted that he was celebrating knowing Andy, his co-host on the Dead Channel Duo, for 3 years last week.
Aww.
Be sure to check out the Dead Channel Duo, available on your favorite podcatcher. They talk about sports, video games, movies, and more. So if you can also follow Al at Twitter @SwordfishShow.
Our anniversary of knowing each other is coming up. Are you going to tweet that out too?
Probably should.
I tweet it.
I think I should.
All right. I think you should. Next up, we have Lourdes and Katie.
Katie was incredibly excited for the Titans Season 2 trailer, especially Deathstroke, because she loves Deathstroke. And she was very much approved of Deathstroke in this season's look.
Next on the list, we have Bobby, whose Twitter handle is @CubanSlim.
After tons of grinding, Bobby has unlocked the Summer Solstice Majestic Armor in Destiny 2. I know he's a huge Destiny 2 gamer and a gamer in general. So make sure to follow him on Twitter @CubanSlim for your gaming tweets.
Next up, we have Neil, who on Twitter is @Inmats68.
Neil posted some cross-country running pictures as the sun rose. Big runner. He came down to Florida a few years back and ran in the Disney Marathon. So if you want to follow Neil, he's got a lot of athletic type of posts and a supporter of the show. So thank you, longtime supporter. Thank you, Neil.
That's awesome. I want to get back into running. How do I do it, Neil? Let me know.
Next shout out goes out to John on Twitter @John72Tex or on Instagram @Johnny2Chips.
John shared his 6.5 CGC graded copy of Batman number 47, which is the first detailed origin of Batman.
He's got a lot of gems in his collection, and huge thanks to John for sharing those with all of us.
Next up, we have Brian, whose Twitter handle is @BrianShoup1.
He retweeted the tweet that went, "It has been pointed out to me that there are 2 series of Bat Pants in this iconic Neil Adams cover, and now I question everything. And it is showcasing Batman number 244, which has Ra's al Ghul holding up Batman's costume, putting the sword down, and you see Batman's shirtless body, but he still has the pants on." And it's like, yeah, that's true. I guess he wears 2 pants.
Yeah.
I know it's just the cover, but
You never know. They couldn't show the bat penis that early. Society would have been burning by now.
They would have flipped. Next shout out goes out to Kat on Instagram @CatShaw.
Kat shared her copy of September's issue of Vogue, which features Taylor Swift.
She is a big Taylor Swift fan and definitely a collector of a lot of these artists.
Taylor Swift is getting huge, by the way. She just released a new single. It's everywhere.
Even bigger? She's getting even bigger?
Even bigger.
So thank you all so much for your Patreon support this week. If you too would like your shout out, head on over to patreon.com/thereasonsimBroke. For just $1 a month equals out to $0.25 an episode. You too can get your shout out.
Another great way you can support us is by buying some merch. Buy some t-shirts. You make up a t-shirt every month. I don't even know where you find the time. But always some great t-shirts going up on there. You can go to thereasonsimbroke.com, click on merch. You can find everything up there.
But of course, our podcast will always be free. The best thing you can do is share the show with one of your friends. Word of mouth is actually the best way to grow a show. So thank you all so much if you have shared the show with someone you know.
And now it is the moment you have all been waiting for, our comic book highlight of the week.
And this week we have an all-new number 1. It is Batman Superman number 1, written by Joshua Williamson, who previously worked on The Flash for Rebirth, art by David Marquez, and colors by Alejandro Sanchez.
I feel that this book was named incorrectly and should have been Superman Loves Batman, because that's all that it was.
So clearly you approve of this Batman Superman comic book.
I did really enjoy it. It had a cool twist in there, and I was like, oh my.
It's funny because you don't like the Batman who laughs.
Nope.
And that's the first villain in this particular arc.
Yes.
It is a speculator issue because it has a couple of first appearances of other corrupted members by the Batman who laughs. But it had the proper Superman Loves Batman theme to it.
All throughout. Even his facial expressions. He was just so much love on his face every time he looked at Batman.
And it's hard to do because a lot of people are like, oh, I ship them. It's like, no. It's Superman that loves Batman.
Yeah.
Batman uses him. He does not love Superman.
I wouldn't say he uses him. He knows about it.
He uses everyone except Alfred.
Okay. All right. Fine.
But with Superman, it is all about the inner monologue of his heartbeat raced a little quicker. It's like, God damn it, fucking Superman.
Your voice sounds funny. How do you know that, Superman?
And a lot of that is in here. If you've been reading Batman Who Laughs, it kind of leads straight into it a little bit. And there's a little bit of Dark Knight's Metal lore that if you have read that event, then you'll appreciate this a little bit more. But I think that it does do a decent job at recapping who this evil version of Batman is.
Yeah, it really does. I don't think that you had to read either of those things to really understand it. And honestly, for me, I made it no secret that I didn't really like Dark Knight's Metal. So when I first saw that the villain was going to be Batman Who Laughs, I was kind of put off because of how much I haven't liked his character throughout. But by the end of the book, I was like, okay, I'm ready for more. Like, where's the next issue? What's going to happen? Because it's really them working together and back and forth inner monologue between them. And even Superman meeting Gordon and Gordon being like, oh, well, I'm used to, being alone. And he's like, but that's not me. That's him.
That's him.
That's just who he is.
I had a sub. What'd you think of the artwork? I had a sub that jumped on the book just because it was drawn by Marquez.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. There was nothing really that stood out. I mean, it wasn't Dustin Nguyen, right? But but there's nothing that, if I don't like the artwork, then it pulls away from the story for me. And it really didn't. It kept me very invested. And then, like I said, he did a great job of capturing Superman's facial expressions, where he's just totally in love with Batman, totally smitten, 100%.
I ended up ordering a lot of copies of this because you had to match the order of Batman Who Laughs to make it returnable. So I cross-pulled it for Batman, Superman, and Batman Who Laughs. And everyone wanted this fucking comic book. I was like, holy shit, like this is going to be kind of like, speculators obviously wanted it because of the first appearance. I'm like, well, thankfully I have some fucking extras that I planned on returning. I don't know if I'm going to return any. We're going to find out by, 4 weeks in how many are actually going to go back. But I don't know. Like I think we have a pretty decent hit on our hands here.
I certainly enjoyed it. And I've fallen off on a lot of comic books recently, but it pulled me in.
People that complain about yet another Batman book, more Batman Who Laughs, sales are dictating that, yes, we need more of that. And another thing, something that's kind of related. This new comic book day was insane, by the way. We had Absolute Carnage, number 2. We had Batman Superman, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, which is pretty big in Florida with that park being nearby. They all want that comic book. We had House of X that came out. I was there till almost midnight.
I know.
Working on new comic book day.
I know.
And it's been nonstop since fucking Tuesday. All throughout today when I worked earlier today for new comic book day, it was just insane, and a lot of sales and a lot of people excited for these books. And overall, one of the biggest weeks since we opened the store as far as the number of titles that actually hit the store. So that's one of the things that I'm like, this is good for, I think, comics overall, but it's also something that I realized it's such a big release by publishers to put so many of these books, and it was previews week. So many of these books into a shop that is struggling. This is the kind of week that if they don't make ends meet, that will put them out of business, because that's a huge bill for today's releases.
Right.
Thankfully, we had a lot of people excited for these books, especially with, might be a lot of comics, but they're like, hey, it's a big week. It happens once a month. Like, it ends up being a huge week, but this week it's like double the size. And just kind of some inside baseball there for one of your hosts that works at a shop.
But that does wrap up the traditional portion of our podcast. Moving forward, we're going to have the Brocat block. That's what happened with Daniel and I this week.
And we've got tons of questions from the Brocats, which came through on Twitter and on our Discord. But it is not the end, in spite of the date of our Shazam digital movie giveaway contest, courtesy of @DCUFanFam on Twitter, in which we asked, what's your all-time favorite scene in the DCEU and why? To the next person that sends us the and why to speakpipe.com/thereasonsimBroke. In 90 seconds or less, you will be heard on the show. You will get a digital copy of Shazam, once again, courtesy of @DCUFanFam.
Can I enter?
You got to call in.
Okay, I'll do it right now.
Here we have some questions we've got 5 questions, I believe, here from the Brocats. And the first one comes from @Mr. Forklift.
Mr. Forklift asks, quote, At what point in each of our own lives did we lose the ability to enjoy the gee whiz nature of what we read, played, watched, and start becoming hardened / cynical / insert appropriate term here?
So he is mainly referring to, especially the news about Spider-Man and the MCU and really the combating fan bases in superhero films right now. And I did answer briefly on Discord, but I'm kind of curious to see what you think. And I'll give you my thoughts after. What do you think?
So when did we reach that state? I think that the world as a whole, right? Society as a whole reached it when communication on the internet, communication digitally became such commonplace, became so much bigger, because it's difficult for me to look you in the face and say, I dislike what you like, but I can type it out and tell you why you're wrong. And then I'm sitting behind a computer screen. And so that's part of it. And then it becomes a competition, right? The thing that I like has to be better than the thing that you like. And you liking it validates me. And that's what we've turned it into, is if you don't like what I like, I don't feel validated. So you're attacking me, so I attack you back. And then it's just cyclical. It continues. And that's really unfortunate, because I wouldn't ever look somebody in the face and say, well, I hate the thing that you like because it's stupid. And that's how we respond all the time on the internet. And when I write responses to people, when I get in these quote unquote arguments, I'm very selective on the words that I use, because I don't ever want to come across like I'm attacking you personally just because I see fault in the thing that you're praising so highly.
I do think there's a lot to be said about the technology of today, as you mentioned, and the instant access to opinion or being able to send out something. I do think that the cynical aspect of fandom has always been a thing. When Michael Keaton was cast as Batman, Warner Brothers got flooded with physical letters against Mr. Mom being cast as Batman. Fandom has always been a thing. Negative fandom, toxic fandom has always been a thing. The bigger that particular property is, the more apparent that it's going to be, but it's always been there. Marvel versus DC has been the thing for years, to the point where Stan called it the distinguished competition and not DC Comics. So it's not that we reached a point of, it's not, oh, gee whiz, it's always been that. Like, we've always been cynical. It's just more obvious now because of things, as you said, like the internet, and because it just happens to be that superhero movies are the action movies of today. That is literally it.
Mic drop.
That's what I think, at least. Next question comes from Twitter user @SketchCards, who asked, quote, a lot of collectors dream about owning a shop. What are some difficulties and expenses that most aren't considering? End quote.
Do you want to tackle this one? I mean, obviously you're in the industry.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is Marvel with their various variants and incentives and all of these hoops that they make comic shops jump through. They are definitely the least comic shop friendly publisher out of all of them. They're not making these comics returnable like some of these, especially indie publishers. They're amazing. As someone like Valiant, they make nearly all of their comics that are getting up and started returnable. It's just a matter of trying to move them. And that's kind of the issue there, is they don't have characters like Marvel or DC that you can just risk, like, yeah, like, just make them returnable. We'll order 20 and let's see what sells. It's a little bit harder with the independent characters, especially with a new property. People ask for new comics, new characters, new stories all the time. They don't buy them. If they did, they would see places like Dark Horse, Image Comics, and IDW, Boom Studios, Vault Comics be actual real big players in the industry, but they don't want it. They want more Batman, they want more Spider-Man, and that's fine. The industry is going to speak for itself. Readers are going to buy what they like, and in spite of what they say in one place, they're going to vote with their dollar, and that's what's happening here. So I think, but overall, when you have one of the two big players using retailer abusive tactics of, okay, you placed your orders for Absolute Carnage #1, every other retailer says, all right, #1 came out, next Monday, place in your final order cutoffs for #2. Marvel goes, the issue hasn't released yet, it's a week before. No, we want your orders for #2 now. They want you to over order on every single issue that you buy. and they make 0 of them returnable. So you are overbuying on their comic books. And a lot of retailers play that game. I don't. I will instead order less of, because fuck that. Like, every other publisher does not make their final order cutoffs before the time that the first issue releases. That's abusive. It's wrong. It's messed up. And I get that it's a bottom line tactic, but it's a shitty bottom line tactic that no other publisher does. So I think that right now is one of the biggest thing. The speculator market, you got to appeal to your readers. It's not about, oh, I need that comic because I need it to be worth money because it's the first appearance of a character and I would need it. No, it's all about the readership. It's about the people that are there every single month, every single week to read the next issue of the book that they love. Buy the book that you love, and if it happens to be worth something later, great. Don't chase the speculators. Don't chase the books that are going to be worth money. Those are not the customers that I appeal to. Those are not the ones I cater to. And I think that's another big threat to owning a shop, or expenses or difficulties in that. Of course, the fact that there are many covers is a big thing of like switching up a cover for something else. Then you're stuck with a cover that everyone else switched the variant for. So that's another big thing. I always like when someone orders what they like and they want and they buy it when it comes out. But that's a minor thing in the overall big picture.
Not coming from a retail management perspective, right? But I do manage a coffee shop. And so I think an expense that people don't consider a lot of times when it comes to these things also are maintenance expenses. So yes, you have your merchandise, right? And there's things that happen with the publisher that sucks. But what happens when your internet is out? What happens when your roof starts leaking? Right? Those are all expenses that you really have to consider and save for, and make sure you're doing the right things by the merchandise that you're ordering and selling and making that money. So you have that money set aside. We get our windows cleaned weekly, and that's $66 a week.
Wow.
Like, out of our register. And granted, we have a lot of windows. Like, most of the store is windows, but $66 a week leaves to fix the windows. If one of my espresso machines isn't working, I have to call somebody in. There's, I don't know how much money just for them to come and look and tell me nothing's wrong and walk back out, right? Or to say you didn't clean it well enough and walk back out. Those things add up so quickly. So when I look at my P&L report for the month, right, and see that bottom line and say, where did $24,000 come from? Or however much it is, for the quarter that was spent on maintenance or spent on utilities, or just all these small things that add up, because you have to do it to keep your business going. You can't not do it, but it adds up really, really quickly.
Yeah, you had mentioned the profit and loss. I just remembered the other big thing, and you see it all the time on Twitter. Buy your comics. Buy what you order. You see those tweets all the time of these shops with this giant stack of books that just get abandoned, and no one, that's it. Even just ordering a statue and going, nah, actually, I don't want it anymore. Now we can't just return it.
Right.
We can't just, well, you'll sell it. No, I won't just sell it. It might just sit there for months.
It's a nudie girl.
Or it might never sell. I don't know. Like, it's weird.
Yeah.
It's really bizarre. And it's that mentality too that really hurts. And I think it's where a lot of people just figure that, oh, well, they'll just fix that problem. And it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't. No.
We don't have that relationship with the distributor. And we don't have the relationship with even other stores.
And here's the thing. If you just return it to the distributor, now what do they do with it, right? They can't just sell it also because you ordered it because you had somebody who wanted it.
And one of my other biggest pet peeves, since we're on this, and this will be the last one for now, is when someone says, I want House of X #1 and all of the variants. Well, some of these variants are going to be worth $50 to $70 to $100. You say, yes, I want this and all of the variants. Okay. And then they abuse this and only do this so that they can pick and choose which of the covers they like best, and then they kick those back. The main problem with this, too, is they'll do this on a day that's not New Comic Book Day, or on a day that isn't day one. So now all of those comics that they just kicked back are almost non-sellable the week after, because you know what comes out the next week? Brand new awesome comic books. So now that House of X #1 doesn't look quite as shiny or awesome or amazing, and now we're stuck with those variants. So that's something that I do cut down on a lot. And I don't know if other shops do this because it might be a customer service thing, but if you're not picking up those high-priced variants, I'm not going to pull them for you. And that's it. Like, they ask, and it's like, look, this is what happened. You don't buy them. Like, why am I going to pull them for you?
The thing at the end of the day is you're a business, right?
Yes.
You still have to do what's right for you while doing as much as you can that's right for the customer. Like, we have customers who come in all the time requesting a certain food item that we don't carry because it doesn't sell.
Mm-hmm.
We were wasting them every single week, and so I have to tell them, oh, we don't carry that. Well, why not? It's delicious. Well, where were you for the last 4 weeks when I was throwing them out every single day?
You got to protect the
Right?
business.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Next question comes from Twitter user Eric. It is at eAntonOfficial.
He asks, quote, what are some good horror-themed comics and graphic novels currently? New stuff, not the classics, end quote.
I know you don't read a lot of
Nope.
spooky comic books
I don't read
stories.
any spooky comic books.
Witches from Scott Snyder came out in the last 3 to 5 years. So by comic book terms, it is considered relatively new and definitely not a classic yet. But it is greenlit to be a film sometime in the future. And they just came out with the Witches Halloween special, I believe it was last year. And Scott Snyder is an amazing writer. If you've read anything from his run of Batman, you know that he has an affinity to write scary stories. You've seen that with The Court of Owls and, of course, with the Joker story called Endgame and Death of the Family. So those are very scary comic books, and I think you should check out Witches because it is a nice trade paperback that kind of wraps everything. It's a self-contained story, but he is going to do more to it after that. So it's Witches spelled with a Y, so Wytches. So that's one that I would definitely recommend. I really like Kill or Be Killed. It's more of a noir story, but it's kind of scary in the fact that you're exploring this inner psychology behind the protagonist of he sees Satan. Satan tells him, you need to kill these evil people within 24 hours or I'm going to end your life. And it's like, holy shit, what's he do? And it's all about this timid guy that normally would never even throw a punch to like, well, if Satan's going to fucking kill me in a day, I better do something. And he goes after bad people. And it takes a turn of like, did he really see Satan? Is he going nuts? What's happening? So that's another really good one. Again, not horror themed, but it is more psychological than, you know, what you'd really run into. And another one that has been really popular, I haven't gone into it myself yet, but based on what customers tell me is Redneck. It is about Southern vampires. So,
What?
Yeah.
Oh, because they're rednecks
Yes.
and they give people rednecks.
Of course.
Stop. Did a dad write this? Is that just a dad joke?
If it is, people seem to love it though, because the comic is pretty far along and
Yeah?
it is doing all right.
Huh. All right.
Next question comes from at DCU FanFam.
Quote, I always wondered how you guys determine how many main covers to purchase versus variants. And to that end, would you prefer comics to only have one cover, or do you find variants increase your sales overall? End quote.
That's such a tough question to answer because it is very easy to be stuck with a certain cover, whether it's the main cover or it's the variant. Overall, I would say that variants do increase sales because there are a lot of books that I purchase that I'm not subscribed to that I will buy that particular cover to because it's gorgeous. Anything I'm not reading Wonder Woman, and I will buy the Jenny Friesen variant every now and again. I will buy the Batgirl variant because I just bought this week's Batgirl. It's amazing. It's such a great piece of art where it's a $3.99 comic. You'd normally go to convention, buy a print for $20 or $15. It's the same type of logic. You're buying a piece of artwork that you can store in a comic box. You can frame it. You can put it up, whatever. It's a smaller size. It's cheaper. So there's a lot to it. And yes, it does. I have found that it increases sales overall. But it is tricky because it's all a guessing game every week of how good is this cover? I think it's pretty good. I think it's going to sell pretty well. I'm going to order this many. And then no one buys it. So the stuff that you might think is amazing and you bought yourself suddenly doesn't sell. But then the cover that you're like, no, that's a piece of shit. I'm not going to order that many. Everyone's suddenly looking for that week. So there's no right way ever to order for variants. The best thing you can do is put that cover in front of as many eyes as possible before that final order cutoff. And that's going to be your best gauge as to, well, I have 10 people that suddenly pre-order this cover and it normally doesn't have this many pre-orders. Maybe I should get more extras than I normally do. And then there's one of like, oh, I thought this cover was going to do great, but I have 2 pre-orders and one of them is me. I think I'll get 1 extra. So that's kind of how I take it.
That's a great note too to anybody purchasing or who enjoys purchasing variants is if you see one, let your comic shop know. Because again, until they know, they don't know what to order. They can't just order all willy-nilly, right? And so if you know you want it, let them know. They'll order it for you if they can and put it on hold.
Final question here comes from Twitter user @PaysonNathan, who asked, quote, which company's business strategy do you prefer? Marvel, with 100 titles a month, or DC, which is 40 titles a month and more dollars per title, end quote. Another one that goes into the comic book industry. I think it's pretty clear with how Marvel has been very abusive to retailers over the last several years. And it's definitely based on the fact that they charge $4.99, $5.99, $6.99. Marvel Comics 1000 was $9.99, more dollars per issue. Overall, theirs are more profitable by gross. But as we've seen in the past, sometimes you move more books if you charge less, which we've seen with DC as well. So I personally like the 40 or less titles, more focused titles a month, than throwing everything out there at the expense of the retailer just to see what sticks. And then what they end up doing anyway, like Black Cat, what's going to happen is in less than a year, that title will be canceled. As soon as sales slightly drop, they're done. That's going to be cut, and they're going to announce a brand new number one of something else. They just announced a new X-Force number one, and we just had a new X-Force number one. So I definitely prefer the DC method of business than Marvel's right now.
I'm obviously not in that retail space, but I would definitely agree. I feel like DC is very much focused on the stories and getting the right story out to the readers and something that's going to have longevity. Whereas, exactly like you said, Marvel just throws stuff against the wall and what sticks. And like those sticky hands, you remember them?
Yeah.
They stick to the wall for a minute. And then when they fell off, they're like, oh, new number one. And they throw another sticky hand.
Well, that hurts Marvel too, because like this whole thing with House of X, we had to put in our orders for House of X number 3 before, right after number 1 release. And it's like, how the fuck do we know?
Right.
We don't know how number 2 did. And we ended up, again, because I'm like, I'm not going to order crazy. And that ended up being like everyone loved it. And now we're out and now readers can't get it. So that hurts them too, because I could have sold way more if their final order cutoff was normal, like every other publisher. So sorry, Marvel, it kind of hurts you as well. But I'm guessing that overall, most retailers end up over ordering. I don't know.
Probably.
I'm not too sure.
They have to if they continue to do it. So.
But there you go. Thank you guys so much for the very retailer-focused questions. If you ever want to send us a tweet or a speak pipe question and you can be heard on the show, send it on over our way and we will answer it on the next episode. But let's go ahead and wrap up everything today with where Paul Kelli and I have been this week.
You had a pretty exciting week. Off on adventures.
I went up for my yearly trip to Chicago. Normally, I would go up for C2E2, which is my favorite comic book convention, and MegaCon being a close number 2, but they ended up moving it up to March earlier this year than what they normally do, which I believe is usually May. And I said, when I went last year in May, it was snowing. I'm not going to go in March.
Right.
When my friends up there are like, yeah, it's kind of cold, then it's definitely cold. Like, it's true cold. And that's what I talk about all the time here in Florida. So this year I decided to go for Wizard World, which took place in August. Lo and behold, it still ended up being chilly in Chicago. And my friends were like, yeah, we didn't really have a summer this year, which is insane.
Lucky?
No, it's not lucky. It's not good. There's no sun. It's cloudy all the time. It was raining and it's fine. But I was still like, damn, even in August, like I can't avoid the cold. But yeah, I ended up going to Wizard World, and Wizard did not have the greatest guests out there for comic books. There were next to no panels. It was all celebrity focused. I really wanted to give you guys a panel recording just like we did at MegaCon this year with Greg Capullo, but that wasn't in the cards. The only panel that I saw that I could feasibly attend was Zachary Levi's, which was close to the con's closing that day. So I'm like, well, no, I'm not really going to go for that. And I was more about looking for the comic book artists and writers, and they weren't there. It was all about the media guests. And the artist alley that was there were very, very, very independent comic book artists or local artists that are, the people that live right there in Chicago or that happen to travel from Wizard World to Wizard World. So I think the quality of the show simply wasn't there. I did still enjoy myself because of the company I was with. I was there with my Chicago friends. So that was great. But that basically is my thought for Wizard World Chicago. I think I'm going to try to avoid it moving forward, unfortunately.
But you got to do other fun things. You got to run around the city with your friends and...
Yeah, we did a lot of bar hopping. We went to a lot of restaurants. We got to hang out and just enjoy ourselves. We went to 3 different half-priced books stores. I don't know if they have them down here, but I love that place. I went last year and I found some great comic books that are going for 50 cents. And I'm like, oh, I've always wanted to read that or check that out, or that cover is neat. And with my friend Clayton, who drove me around a lot of places, Justin and Riggs as well. And it was just good to see how the actual city has changed, how the suburbs, Schaumburg, Hoffman, have all changed over the years. And overall, again, just being able to hang out with the friends that I spent a lot of years with up there.
Well, Leo and I missed you while you were gone.
Yeah, we talked, I think, almost every day that I was gone. And we did the Facebook streaming or calling.
Right.
And it's always, I think the last night that we talked, I teared up just seeing Leo run around, and thankfully he still remembered me and saw Dada and ran around and was happy. So
Right.
it was good. It was very heartwarming to come home.
Well, we were happy to have you home, but we definitely missed you. Leo and I watched a lot of Mulan. We got some great mommy baby time. He's growing a lot. He's becoming more independent. I can't cuddle him anymore. Like nap time, no. I have to turn my back to him and then he'll fall asleep. Like he wants me close, but not too close. So he's definitely becoming a big man.
Strong, independent baby.
He is. He's not my little baby anymore, but, I got to spend some time with friends while you were gone, because usually those days that you're here are family time, right? But you were gone, so I, texted a few of my friends, and I'm like, hey, let's get some lunch. So I got to see one of my best friends. I've known her since we were born, right? Literally, and I hadn't seen her since Christmas. So we got to spend some time together, and so that was a lot of fun. I played more Pokemon while you were gone, too.
Nice.
Most nights I fell asleep at 9:30 because, Leo went to bed and I'm like, well, there's nothing for me now.
So you got some sleep.
So I did get some sleep, which was good. But I'm still in Silphco. I got a Lapras, which I was excited about.
Pokemon Go?
Yep, and Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. But yeah, Silphco is a pain in my ass. So I had to put it on pause for a little bit. But I did get my Lapras, so that was exciting. What else did I do this week? Now I'm just gearing up for my Chicago trip. Now that you're back, I get to go up to Chicago for a work thing for a few days. So that'll be this next week, is getting the house clean and getting meals for you and Leo and making sure you two are set for when I'm gone for a few days.
If there's one thing I learned from one of my buddies who at Chicago told me that he also got flown out for work, and it was actually for a promotion, but he said that a lot of people they actually paid attention to what you did on your trip. So that was one of the things where he showed up to breakfast 15 minutes late and he's like, well, it's breakfast, it'll be fine. That ended up being a thing, with his work, where they brought it up during his interview and he's like, damn. So just a heads up.
Yes,
and everyone else that's
and my boss also mentioned that. So they've only done this kind of thing 3 times in the company's history, right? And I just happened to barely slide in to make it to this round, because I think it's only once every 5 years that they do this. So he mentioned that. He's like, people get fired at every single one of these because they drink too much and they're stupid. And, I
believe it.
I believe it 100%, because they are always watching those things and seeing when you get there. But I still understand that while I'm there, it's still work, right? It'll be exciting to see the city, what I can see of it, which won't be a lot, but I still need to be there and learn things. And ultimately, it's going to be really exciting because it's a deep dive into the core and the fundamentals and what this company is all about. And those are things that fascinate me. I'm like, yes, tell me more. Teach me more about coffee. I was talking to somebody. So I get in pretty early, but there's no conferences the first day. The first day is just travel, and you can't check into the hotel till after dinner. So we land at 11. And so I was talking to my roommate for the trip, and I'm like, we're going to go find pizza. That's all I want. And she's like, I've never been to the city. We're going to do things. And I was like, yeah. And then I'm talking to another manager, and he goes, no, they have interactive things like bean raking, coffee bean. I'm like, I don't want a fucking coffee bean rake. What are they going to do if I run around the city instead? And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, I'm going to do it.
Uh-oh. And this is how Palpa Kelly got fired.
No, but here's the thing. People land at different times. They're not going to know my flight landed at 11.
Oh, they will.
And I'm going to say I got held up by pizza. And they're going to say, okay, I understand.
I was getting lunch.
But apparently, at the last one of these, because I was asking, what lunches are going to be like, because they cater them. And he was telling me at the last one, they rented out a stadium, like a baseball stadium, and just opened all the concessions, and you just got to go through and eat whatever you wanted. And then they had some concert playing, and I was like, fuck yeah.
It's neat.
Yeah, so I don't know what it'll be like. I'm excited. The weather's going to be like a high of 71, so I will be wearing a jacket, and I will be cold.
Because you are a weather baby.
Yeah, no, because I'm a Floridian. Oh, that's something that's happening this week. We get in a hurricane.
Oh, yeah. I have seen a couple of tweets there like, oh, I hope you guys are safe. And we'll find out, but I'm not panicking at the time of this.
No. So I saw the best meme, and I posted it on Facebook again because it was so true. I found out about the hurricane not because of the news, but because of the other memes about the hurricane. So that just explains Florida right there. The shelves are empty. There's no water anywhere. There's no bread. But what are you going to do with plain old bread and no toaster and no sandwich things? I don't even know. But there's no bread. So I got a bunch of like chips and peanut butter pretzels and granola bars. That nobody wanted the granola bars.
Some nutritious shit.
Yeah, well, yes. Not like
Stuff
regular
that'll
chips.
actually keep you alive.
Yes, exactly. We will probably lose power if it's bad enough. They're projecting like a Cat 3, which I still don't think will happen. But we always lose power. One of the best memes I saw was everybody freaking out about a tropical storm. We have a tropical storm every day at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's pretty true. So it's just going to be a whole lot of rain. Not worried.
Yeah, I gotta try to mow the lawn before that happens.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm still catching up on a lot of stuff.
That happens when you go on vacation.
By the time I'm caught up, you'll be going out of town, and then I'll
Yeah.
be behind on everything again. That's
but
what's
I'm
gonna
really
happen.
not out of town that many days.
Yeah.
Like I'll be back mid-afternoon on Saturday. So it's only 3 days really that you're without me.
We'll see. But I think that does it for our BroCat block
Yeah.
and the show this week.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the show. As always, if you have questions, send it to us on Twitter at ReasonsI'mBroke, at Kelli. Also, don't forget to talk to us on SpeakPipe, and you could win that Shazam movie.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I am Swimmer Daniel
And I am Emperor Kelli.
and BroCat Core. All will be well.